Hi everyone. So what we're planning on doing today is doing quite a high-level overview of what field service in CRM is. We notice that I'm referring to it now as field service because FieldOne was acquired by Microsoft about a year ago now, and it's now all coming out rebranded as field service for Dynamics CRM. Much of the functionality is still the same, and however there are some new features as well that are coming out in this next release. So first of all, just to start things off, just to give you a bit of an overhead of the architecture or what is included in field service for CRM. So we leverage, these are in the middle here, our typical FieldOne Sky original entities. But then we also leverage off our CRM core functionalities. So what field service provides us is work order schedules, which allow us to, schedule jobs and things like that. The ability to track products that are used on a job and the use of those products and raising purchase orders, and the ability to be able to, schedule jobs based on a resource's skills, location, and the time preferences of when that job needs to be done, or that work order. So this is, I guess, a typical life cycle of a work order in field service. So everything really in regards to the field service solution comes back to the work order. So we have this concept of having a case where everything begins. Now in field service out of the box, everything actually really begins with the work order, but eBECS has an accelerator that sits on top of the field service solution that you get, and we bring everything up to the case level. Now the reason that we do that is if you think about typical field service sort of activities, quite often someone might call up and say, oh, I've got a plumbing issue or something like that. So maybe you go out and a plumber goes out, and what eventually may actually happen from that call is maybe you fix the leak or something, but it could have then also caused an electrical issue. So then you need to get an electrician out. So what bringing things up to the case level allows us to do is that we can track the entire cost of that request, rather than just having individual work orders for the plumber to go out, for the electrician to go out, or for whatever else to go out. So we bring it up to the case level. So what our work order has is this concept of a job type. It's called an incident type in the system, which is really like a template of the sorts of jobs you'll do. And what that can have associated to it is a bunch of skills, service types, so service charges, and products that may be required. Based on that, I can then allocate out that job to the appropriate resources. And this then generates a schedule that's allocated out to the resource on their mobile client. The next step of the process is that it's dispatched to the user, and on their mobile client they will interact with it and say when they're traveling to the job, when they're working on the job, and things like that. So we can track the whole time that is spent on the job, and what we're able to do is track the time spent on the job by those status changes. So what I mean by that is we can then charge the customer for travel time if we want, for the actual time on site that we want, if we want, and things like that. So we get like a journal entry against the job. The resources then go and do the service, and then what we can also do is we can have a review or approval of the job, if you like. And this is quite key, again, to the eBECS accelerator and how we bring things up to the case level. So the reason for that is we want to, what that case level view provides us is this financial summary of how much perhaps cost all the work orders related to that case are, and or the expected revenue. So what we could do is we could have a sort of alert then on the case if maybe our margin isn't high enough, and we could then be reviewing the work orders or the work order schedules that those resources went out to do to confirm that they've actually recorded all the details of the job correctly. And then the final stage is then doing our invoicing of that. Now that could either be invoiced directly from CRM, or we could integrate to your ERP system. So that's a kind of concept, high-level concept of the process. Just going to dive in and show you, I think, a few screenshots of the system. We don't have much time to show a live demo, so we'll just go through and show some screenshots. So how everything, those of you that know CRM, you'd know the account record, and the field service solution leverages off the account record. We have a concept of, we can have an account that has many sub-accounts or sites. You can see here that this is indicated as a site account. So what that might mean, for example, is maybe you have a contract with a city council and maybe you have multiple sites that you could go service. So the contract could be with the parent account, the account that owns all those sub-sites, and then you could have all those sub-sites recorded. So it means you could be recording the fact that you're going out to 30 Robert Close to do the jobs, but you could actually then be invoicing or tracking that against the contract or the agreement that you have with the parent account. That's another key element of our eBECS Field Service Accelerator, is that we're also including the contract component into our solution. Okay, so here you can see that we have our case record here. So this would be what is initially raised when someone is either, they could be raising it through a portal, they could be raising a case through a portal. We have also, as part of our accelerator, an ADX Studio portal accelerator that allows you to expose to subcontractors, clients and residents an ability to raise their cases and themselves, so they don't have to call us. So this case record, and you'll see here what I was talking about earlier, how we can summarise the case labour and materials and costs and things like that, so we can get this view of what the profits we're making against this case. So how this also assists further is we're then able to even get a view of the, I can then use this in our Power BI model that we have to then view to see the sorts of jobs. So maybe like up here we're not making any case profit on this, and we may find out that our Gates incident type is a constant one that we're not making profits on. So having this detailed breakdown at the individual job, case level, and then I can also look at the contract level, allows for us to work out this information. So this is right now, guys, what I'm showing. This is more someone in the back office would be seeing. We then drop down to our individual work order. So you can see here the incident type is no hot water. You can make these incident types whatever you like. It's part of the setup and configuration that you do. So, for example, we work with you guys on configuring these incident types to best suit your business. And like what I said earlier, this is the template. This is like the template of the job type. And we can see here that this work order has been assigned out to Dave and some details of the incident type. Now, typically what would happen is there's multiple ways that I can get my job scheduled, which we'll jump into at the end if we've got some time. But you can see I get this schedule board view, and it allows me to view the progress of the jobs throughout the day, but also to interactively schedule off this board. So, for example, just some features here. You'll see up the top I've got different tabs. So I could break down these tab views of this schedule board potentially by geographical territories, or I could break it down by skill types, or whatever it is that you require. I can then, the whole idea is that this board is used by a scheduler, and they could then, if required, move things around if needed. It's all color coordinated and controlled to control, as the getting status updates of the job. And you can even change these colors. So you can see here on this one, the green one's been completed. The orange ones are, I think they're traveling, and I think the purple one here is work in progress. And then we can also have this visualization here of where the jobs are on the map. We can look at both. We can view, we can also change this to be a whole map view where we could see where all the jobs are and also where our resource currently is on, by pin. You'll see here that there's a number of resources on this one here, and they're all color coordinated, the resources. But you'll see how this kind of also makes it important that you kind of use this tab functionality, because that's quite a few resources to be looking at one time on a schedule board. So if you were actually trying to interactively move these resources around, you probably want to break these tabs up. So you see this is all, but I've actually broken this one up into north, south and central for if I'm actually managing stuff, so I can just see the resources or the area that I'm more focused on. Okay, so the other key element that you guys are probably interested in taking a look at is the mobile view. So this is what our resources would see when they're out, like our engineers in the field, the man in the van would be looking at. So there's a mobile client that runs on Windows, Android and Apple devices. And how it works is you can pretty much choose what you want to expose to the mobile user. Now, as you'd all be aware, the back office job needs to see a lot more information than the person who's out in the field. They're just interested in seeing all their jobs to the data information that they require to their job. So we can control what is exposed to the user here. We can expose other CRM entities as well. However, with the field service license that you do get from Microsoft, it does only give you the field service entities to expose. So if, for example, you wanted to use it for leads or opportunities for sales as well, you would have to purchase an additional license. So here's some examples of the mobile user. We have a concept of being able to change the status of the job as it goes through. Another key feature that we've built in at eBECS is, you'll see here, this is actually showing the out-of-the-box process, but what we've done at eBECS is we have a status progression control. What we found is when we first implemented this solution that we were, everyone just kept changing their thing from scheduled to complete as they were doing the jobs in the field. They weren't going from traveling to in progress or anything like that. And then that, of course, that really messed up the reports. So what we've done, what we can implement is a status progression control that forces someone through from traveling to in progress to complete, so that you're actually recording in your journals and the data correctly into the system. This view here is just showing a map view of where the job is to go. So it leverages off whatever map technology you have on your phone. So this would be, iOS, Android, and Windows all have their different own mapping solution. But if you would choose here to go to navigate, it would then do your turn-by-turn driving instructions to your location. So we can view this. You'll be noticing the difference here. See how I'm on a tablet view and it's showing 3 panels at a time, whereas now I'm on a phone view and it's just showing 1 panel at a time. You can see here I'm filling in, this is just some work order details. I can indicate on the mobile client if I actually require a follow-up, so that could then automatically generate and for a new work order to be created. And once again, remember how I said we keep all that linked together through the case entity, so we know, that this work order connected to this work order to this work order. And we can also capture signatures and notes and photos directly through the mobile client, and they are attached as notes to the work order when you sync it back. Just to be clear, all the functionality I'm talking about works offline and online. And here you can see photo being taken and someone taking a signature. One other element too is we can also support you having, I spoke about earlier about how we can track the products in the van and how they've used and if they've been used. So you'll see here we've just got a products lookup here, and I can also have barcoding where I can leverage off the camera on the phone and it will scan the barcode and automatically associate the product. But what we're doing when we set up these work orders is we're estimating the products we think you'll use, and so they sit in a status of estimated until you indicate them as used. So what that then allows us to do is we can look at, Bill's got 8 jobs today, and because of the estimated products he'll use for all those jobs, perhaps it means he needs to replenish his van stock or something before he starts the day. So all of that sort of business process can be implemented. And then when it comes to being complete, the work order indicator is complete, and we have a couple of options here. These are just all driven by views in CRM, but we could have it that it disappears off the customer's mobile device when it's complete, or it's still there for them to see. In the next release that's coming out in a couple of weeks with CRM Online, we'll also have the functionality to be able to drip feed jobs. So what I mean by that is, like, maybe the engineer here would currently only be seeing this job because that's what they're working on, but once they go to complete, this next job would then automatically appear. Sorry guys. Okay, moving forward. Alright, so just to explain some of the scheduling concepts to you guys that are available. So we have the ability to do the schedule board, which you saw. I showed you the schedule board, and we can move things around and add jobs and things like that. We also have a schedule assistant that allows you to just schedule one-off jobs. And then we have the auto router or routing optimization engine. Now, the routing optimization engine from Microsoft, during the FieldOne had a routing optimization engine. It has now been taken off the market and is currently in a beta program. The main reason it was taken off the market is because it used to only run through the Azure data center in the US, and it also didn't use Microsoft preferred mapping technology. So it's had some technical enhancements and things like that, and it's now being reintroduced to the market. So we have customers at eBECS that are now currently using it and are trialing it, but it will be for general release in the fall release, which was like in October, November. It's still, but we're still able to run trials and things like that against it if to test out data and performance of it. Now, so how all this routing optimization and scheduling works is we have a concept against the work orders, which could be driven from anything in the system. So it could be driven by the SLA on the case, or it could be driven by manual entry or time preferences of the customer, but where we can put in information like the preferred resource, date and time windows, or date and time date windows, or just clear date windows and time windows that the job has to be done. If the schedule assistant is run or the auto router, what it's going to do is it's going to be looking, that's what we call a constraint. So that would be a constraint that it has to get a job in at that time. The other concept is we have our incident types, which is like what I said is like our template. And our incident type has against it the skills that are required to do that job. So that's another constraint. So it wouldn't let you schedule a job to someone who didn't have that skill. The other constraint is the territory that the resource belongs to and that the site or the account belongs to. So a resource can belong to multiple territories as well, so maybe someone kind of lives on a border of a territory, but a site or an account can only belong to one territory. So that's another constraint. It would be, it wouldn't schedule something outside of the territory. So then what happens is the optimizer would run, and you can see here this is an optimization that's run, and you'll see how it's grouping the jobs. So what I just ran through with you was our constraints. So it means that the auto router won't schedule something outside of that. But then when we talk about routing optimization, we also have a concept of drivers. And our drivers are reduce travel time, so reduce mileage or travel time, and also and priority is another driver. So what that means is we can have things, maybe certain customers have a high priority, or maybe we are to ensure that the routing optimization engine is always scheduling something inside its time preferences. We could be automatically associating priorities to make sure it happens. Yeah, and the other driver is to fully optimize a resource. Whoops. So for example, it wouldn't go and run for this day and have everyone at like 40%. What it would prefer to do is fully optimize the resource and have 3 resources working fully optimized, as opposed to having 8 resources on half optimized. Okay, so we see some really key benefits here in regards to implementing the field service solution inside of CRM. The key element of field service in CRM is that it's customer service driven, so it's customer driven. So it really means that you can still be looking at that account record and getting a feel not just for if they've called up and made complaints or if they've got current opportunities or their marketing stuff, but you're also going to be able to see about all those visits and work orders and all site visits that have occurred. The idea is to reduce travel costs in regards to the scheduling optimization and really the utilization of resources to have them scheduled more effectively. We're trying to reduce manual processing here, so if you guys are still in systems where the guys have a clipboard and are going out and filling in information, the whole goal of this is to get rid of that, and they're doing it all on their mobile client. And also another functionality we don't have time to go through for this webinar, but we are going to have another webinar for, is that we at eBECS have built a piece of IP called a site assessment survey solution, and it's all about trying to get rid of that clipboard that someone goes out with, and it allows you to build up like site assessments or surveys for a resource they can go to offline, and maybe they go, oh, if it's if a certain question's answered a certain way, it then populates prompts for another question, and allows you to really be controlling how the engineer or technician in the field, what they're answering, then what they're doing, and also prompts them for information based on that. It provides you with visibility of where your technicians are. You're not the whole idea is you're finding out about issues sooner and your schedulers start dealing with the 20% as opposed to dealing with the 100%. So they're seeing, because the sync backs because when you sync back to of the status changes and stuff, the colors automatically update on the schedule board. Your people managing the teams and things like that, they're finding out information quick, and they can be more reactive rather than finding out about that someone's 2 hours late in their day at 6 p.m. And we're also able to improve reporting back to the business. Whoops, should have built all that out. Okay, so just a couple of new features are coming in the new release of CRM Online. So the biggest functional change is that it's rebranded, so it's Field Service for CRM, no longer FieldOne. And then a couple of other nice features have come through. One key one that eBECS has been pushing for very heavily is the ability to, with skills now, to be able to characterize the proficiency rate. So what I mean by that is maybe you'll say that someone's a plumber, but what you could say is there's different proficiency rates, and you could say, well, one's an apprentice and then another person's a master plumber or something like that. And what you could identify is that for certain jobs or certain work orders, maybe you need a master. But for other jobs, you could, an apprentice is sufficient. So what this means then is that we can be grading proficiency levels and things in our scheduling. So we could hopefully then be looking to, well, let's try and get the apprentice out on as many jobs as possible because they're cheaper. We can now support time allocation outside of work, such as like lunch or training or something like that. So what this means is our schedule board used to only support having jobs displayed that related directly to a work order, and a lot of our customers wanted the ability, for example, to be able to use the schedule board to manage their technicians fully. So what they want to be able to do is like block out, for example, if they're on training in that morning, or if they perhaps every Thursday afternoon they're in the office, so don't schedule them. So what it means is that we can now put jobs on the schedule board to block out a resource to not be scheduled through the auto router or through the schedule assistant that aren't necessarily related directly to a work order. And where this then fits into is, some of you may be aware of this or not, but project service is coming out inside of CRM. So this is about resource management of services, project service for a company more like eBECS, which is managing resources and times and projects and things like that. But what's happening is that we're sharing the resource record across these two solutions. So this is really exciting. So it's only a first step in this direction, but what it does mean is that what will be coming out is things like having a Microsoft project plan inside of CRM with predecessors and maybe a large project plan, and maybe part of that project plan is for just a consultant to go out and do something, but another part of that project plan based on predecessors maybe for a work order to be created for a technician or plumber or something to go out and do a job. And that's where all this is heading, and we're very close to that point. There's some out-of-the-box business process improvements, and there's also some mobile enhancements in the fact that we're moving up to the latest mobile versions with the templates that you get. So that's all from me. You got some questions there, Ollie, or?
You can tell it's Friday. We've just got one question that's just literally come through now, so I'll just read it out. Yeah, so when's the new release out, Tash? That's what the question is. When are these new features going to be available?
So the new features are only these ones here. Like everything else I've spoken about are not new features. They're currently available. So and the new release is only for online, CRM Online customers. These new features for on-premise will not be available until the fall. There's no committed date for the fall, but the online release is in June. We don't have a dedicated date, but it is June. They have committed to June.
Thank you, Tash. Another question that's come through. What sort of user numbers is the solution designed for, Tash? In terms of the field technicians.
Really have yeah, so we've got anywhere ourselves at eBECS, in our experience, of anywhere from like 30 is probably the smallest that we've got. and then we've got probably 1,000 into the thousands. With our projects that we've run that go into the thousands, we pretty much do it as a phased rollout, because it's you got kind of going by geography, by geography, by geography. But I think the largest FieldOne customer, this is a US run project, is 10,000 engineers. So
very scalable then, yeah.
Yeah.
No more questions at the minute. It's obviously Friday. Everyone's getting ready for the weekend. I'll just give it a couple more seconds, see if anything else comes through. Yeah, so I'd just like to say I hope everyone found today's session useful. We'd obviously be more than happy to arrange further one-to-one sessions in order to understand some specific requirements in more detail. After today's session, the marketing team will be in touch to arrange these individual sessions. And I think that just leaves it to say, look, appreciate everyone's time and have a great weekend and thanks for your time.
Oh, sorry, just one more thing, guys. Just on that, we are actually bringing out a marketing web series on all of this functionality. It'll be coming out in the next in a month. So watch our website as well. If it's something that you're not interested in right now, all of these will be videos on specific feature areas. So it might be of interest for you guys to keep coming back to the website whenever they come back up.
We've just had another question through, Tash, just quickly. You mentioned predecessors and jobs. Does that mean that you can't do one job before another's happened?
We can enforce that, yes, if you want. Yeah. So we do support that now, the concept of being able to, so for example, you're renovating a bathroom and you need to get the, waterproof it before the tiler comes in. We can support that now, yes. But we don't, the support of it now isn't like with a nice little project plan and Gantt chart and everything.
That's it for the questions, Tash. Well, look, thanks everyone for your time this afternoon. And we look forward to hopefully progress things further in individual sessions. So thanks very much for your time.
Thanks everyone, bye.